I am honored to introduce Howie Danzik. That is, I think you guys need to know how important he is to worldwide, to the world of Amway, to who he is. Here's a guy that's been in business 33 years. It's really incredible. He's been on a board called the IBOAI for 16 years. And for those of you that other people are gonna come to you and say, yeah, I know a business just like that. There is nothing like this business, by the way. And especially because of this board called the IBOAI, and they protect you. That is the biggest thing. And Howie and T have one of the greatest businesses in all of North America. He's one of the most respected leaders across the nation. And I want you to give him a warm Northwest welcome to Howie Danzik.
Okay. I appreciate Tracy doing that. Thanks. All right. See if I can teach you something, but thank you. I really appreciate it. Okay, you guys ready? Thanks. Thank you. All right, we're good. Thank you. Thank you. I do appreciate it. That's an honor to be introduced by Tracy and Kimberly, and I'll talk about the IBOAI a little bit, but I just want to it's an honor to be able to wrap up here. For all of you watching at home, congratulations, Boise, you had a phenomenal weekend. But we'll just do this. Here's what I want to do. I'm going to take maybe the first 10 minutes and just do a really basic sort of nuts and boltsy type stuff. Please check upline, but there's so many that are new, and one of the things we do, I'm really going to just talk about what we've done, consistently. We really haven't changed much in 33 years, and T and I being together for 27. I had some incredible foundational things. I love how Brad always talks about, if you're gonna build a nice house, you need a good foundation. So I think you gotta keep this remarkably simple. Remember, most people that get in the business, are not self-starters. Doesn't mean they're not great people. They're just never really had to go maybe invest into a business like I did or many other people did or whatever it might be. And then, of course, a lot of people have never been self-employed. And then when you look at something like this now, of course, today, being complimentary, we use complimentary or no cost. We really don't want to use the word free. We have those good discussions in the boardroom. And I hope for all of you that are here this weekend or watching around the country, you see the value. I mean, just call it a community, call it a culture, call it a safe environment, whatever you want to call it. And I think some of you heard me refer to last night, Andrew Schmidt, who's doing a tremendous job at the company, and we've built an incredible relationship. That's really what the board is just building that relationship. But we talked about it in a very positive way. It's like we have a lot of people, like I said, that are in sort of kindergarten, and we got to make sure we can get them to first grade. And I'll talk later. I want to talk about some of the tweaks we've made to the business and why we've made those tweaks and why we've done that and why we have even a better business model today going into the future. And I'm proud of it. And I tell people, look, if Bill and I, Bill Hawkins, who I mentioned last night, if we're as excited about the future of the business as we are with the rooms that we sit in, I think that ought to make you think. So the one goal I have here today is to give you sort of a state of the business and help you understand what you got your hands on, whether you've been in for 2 days or 20 years, it really doesn't matter. But again, the power of protecting the business, right? Making decisions for children not yet born. I want to honor the management team, which of course Ron put together years ago, Worldwide's board. I can't thank those people enough. And all of the diamonds and what we do, and we conglomerate and we get together and bounce ideas off each other to give you a better business model. So I think that's key. So I'm sure you got what you needed. I hope you did. Please check upline. You won't hear anything new. But look, everybody's in different seasons, right? Some of you come in here single. Some of you married with kids, getting ready to have, your kids are grown. Some of you like ours. Of course, it's funny. Everybody thinks they're busy, and I get that. And one of the things we teach is time management, right? How to manage your time. Greg just did a good job talking about some of that. Of course, some of you are like single with a cat and think you're busy. You're just, you're not. And many times the busier people are, the better off that they do. Does everybody get that? Some of you know my story, 80 hours a week. And by the way, when I think about complimentary, I think to myself, my practice was about $200,000 back in 1990, and I saw the plan in 91 in a living room in Colorado Springs. And some of you probably heard the story, but the point is, my overhead was $47,000 a month. Well, wouldn't it have been great if somebody had come to me and said, hey, listen, we're just gonna ramp this puppy up for 12 months, no cost. We'll give you all your Whirlpools and your ultrasound machines and tables to put the patients on. But no, I had to go into debt. And sometimes people say, well, when did you pay off your practice? The day I sold it in 1993. And so I hope you guys really can, one of the roles I think we all have is we got to get products in people's homes in the beginning because it's really the only investment they have. And I'll talk about why we did complimentary and sort of how those discussions came about. And the bottom line is we just got to, these product stacks are out there. We have a lot of people ordering 2 or 3 product stacks right out of the chute depending on their budget. And we got to get an array of products, I can't stress that enough, in people's homes. Why? Well, Ron Perrier, if you listen to his old audios, he says, number one, it gives you music to your words, right? You know, we want to make sure we're not just signing people up with no products. I mean, it's optional, we get that. But the reality is if they have products in their home, then number one, right, it goes into their inventory. They're more apt to sell product, which is right, to get it onboarding and all that. And the second thing is, when they wake up in the morning and go in the bathroom, they actually remind themselves they're in the business. What a concept. You follow me? If you're brushing your teeth with your own toothpaste going, yeah, maybe I should talk to somebody today. So that'd be good. But we're all in different seasons. Obviously, you hear a lot about the why, the dream, all of that kind of thing. And I tell a funny story that my group's probably heard me say a bunch, but I remember years ago, back when I was, doing meetings, early 90s, and I remember sitting with a guy and I had been through, I was just building my business, doing whatever. And I asked him, I said, hey man, what excites you? What are you looking for? If you had some options, choices, what would you be doing with your time? And he said, well, if I had choices, he goes, I'd be living in my mother's basement, studying archaeology and learning how to play the bagpipes. And if you know me at all, I'm not usually at a loss for words, and I'm thinking, me too, man, me too. How to win friends and influence people, get people to your way of thinking. So I don't know if he's doing that, but here's my point, is, look, everybody, you don't need some big old vision coming out of here today. Right now, simple things. Hey, let's delay our gratification. Let's get out of debt. All the things that a lot of you are working on. Bob Coomer, give him what a phenomenal talk Bob and Shelley gave. Just about all those, different things, and all the diamonds did, and I'll refer to some, but, we got to keep things simple for people. You follow me? Like in my case, it was my student loan debt, and different things. So just remember, when you're sitting with people, and again, check up line, but make sure you're not hitting them with, changing the world out of it. You follow me? Let's keep them around. Let's get them from kindergarten to first grade, and let's give them a basic why of that they got involved. And then I think to my very first nuts and bolts, when I went with Terry, I think he had a few meetings he let me plug into, and he said, Howie, people need to get belief in 3 things. They have to get belief in the Amway business, that it's something good to offer people. Well, I don't think if you're listening or watching, that's not hard to do. I mean, you look at the 64, 65-year track record, you look at what's been accomplished around the world, it is not that hard to get, excited about the Amway business. And sometimes people go, well, how come not everybody's always excited, or they see stuff, or they talk to people? Everybody, you know how many people have been through the business in 64 or 65 years? Right? And now it's complimentary, so all kinds of people are getting involved. Like I said, hopefully we can get them to stick around. But not everybody has had a great experience, but a lot of people have. And I think one thing I would just coach you on, I tell my group all the time, is don't assume that people aren't positive. Most people, the 3.5 years that I really built my business hard in the beginning, people were very, very positive. I love how T, if any of you heard T's teaching, and she does some amazing teaching, and she has the ability to keep things that seem complicated sometimes and keep them simple. But if someone didn't have a great experience, then for whatever reason, and T would go, well, hey, are you willing to be re-educated? That's just not my experience. And here's what I've seen. And so I think you got to be mature enough, all of you, to understand that no one's ever had a negative experience with the company. It's always been usually the behavior of an IBO or somebody that maybe didn't treat it effectively. So learn, those are basic things. I personally, maybe it's because of my personality or whatever, and meeting Terry, I just wasn't really looking or interested in other people's opinions. Just because I had met Terry and then eventually heard of Ron and different things. So I just had a high level of belief sort of out of the chute. That's all I saw. Does everybody get that? And most of you, same thing. You've had an unbelievable experience in the direct selling business, and now you just got to go share it. And you can't, right? I always talk about, like, how many of you like pineapple on your pizza? Yeah, you guys are weird, man. I can't even imagine that. And I have food as my MO, and I get that. But the point is, I like pineapple, I like pizza, I just don't like them together. How many of you guys like ketchup on your eggs? Right? So yeah, you gotta have, how could you eat eggs without ketchup? So my point is, as you're out working numbers, you just gotta understand that not everybody's gonna see it. Are we clear? It's not, you gotta get a little bit unemotional. That helped me having Terry in the beginning. It was a numbers game. Obviously today you should be we've always taught, turning no's into yeses. You're creating volume. People say, how do you create volume? You create volume out of people that aren't interested. The retail shelf that Worldwide's done an amazing job on, and T and others had a lot to do with. There are so many scripts and videos on there. Selling products should be robust for you. And by the way, real quick, TJ and the Worldwide staff, love you guys. I can't remember if I said thank you. And Doug, and what Doug's done. So belief in the Amway business is not hard to do. Belief in Worldwide and your upline is also not that hard to do. When you see what's going on and everything else, it's pretty clear. So what do you have to get belief in? Well, it's what we've all committed our life to over here, all of us, is to get you to believe in you. And when people believe they can do it, they tend to do it. And that's why I'm proud of you for being here. I think it's awesome. You've taken time and gotten babysitters and got somebody to watch your cat and all that kind of stuff. So we're proud of you, right? But the bottom line is you made a great decision for you. And whether it's complimentary or even a small fee to come to these, everybody, I'm just going to say the word again. It's value, right? I think about going to school and all the degrees and different things. It just costs some money, okay? So got to keep things simple. So here's some stats. The company is saying that the first 10 days, okay, is absolutely critical for a new IBO journey. And if I can tell you one of the many things I love about Ron and Georgia Lee, and Ron being able to have him as a personal coach for 20 years, is he always, I can't tell you how many times we sat in that management team room or a Kate or something, everything was always about the new IBO. How cool is that? And that's where we're always at. So when you sponsor people, and of course today, again, being complimentary, showing value, products, we'll get into some of that. In my experience, you have to do everything that you can to help them have some kind of success right away. It could be onboarding with the 100 PV, $300 worth of sales. We'll talk about why we did that. That was a great decision. That unlocks their sponsoring. It puts some profit in. Help them sell a product. Help them maybe go show the plan, or as far, I'm not going to get into all that today. Everybody does the business a little bit different. So whether you're doing meet and greets, plans, whatever you're doing, just follow what your upline's doing. I'm not here to teach you what to do mechanic-wise. I can tell you got to keep it simple. But the reality is, you're in a situation where when you look at it and you're sitting, new people, when you sponsor A, the best thing you can do is either sponsor B under A, help them get some sales, help them get some profit, whatever it might be. But your goal is to give them some kind of success absolutely as quick as possible. Why? Because chances are maybe it gets them to the next second look in May, or it gets them to something next thing. Maybe they go start listening to their Kate or something. So helping people take baby steps and have success along the way. Okay? So I think that's key. That 10-day thing is a big thing for sure, and Ron always focused on it. Helping them place an order, all that, and all that. So anyway, so a couple things. So what do we try and do with new IBOs? Well, it's just like raising kids, and you've heard a lot of the analogies this weekend, is you got to help. If you're new in here, and even if some of you have been around a little bit, probably what needs to happen out of here is you need to develop some habits. You got to get some habits and eventually develop some skills, but habits are key. Most of us that have fortunately been around a while and made some things work at a high level, we just have habits. My kids have always said, hey, Dad, you're a creature of habit. I am. I have certain things that I do every day. Everybody does. You're not going to go be successful in anything. Many of you have heard the vertical alignment talk that Ron's given for years. Of God, depending on where you're at spiritually, spouse, right? Kids, immediate family, right? Country, job, all that going down. And then Amway is actually below, you got hobbies, and then you got Amway. And people, you sometimes say, well, how come Amway's so low down there? Because you don't have to do it. It's optional. We don't tell people to give up their hobbies. But I think it's critical that we get some habits. So what would be some of the habits? Well, if you look at the core steps, Dream, Stream, Kate, audios, books, they're all simple. By the way, let me ask you a question. Because I remember, especially now when you're complimentary, and even if you're not, why would you want to get those apps on your phone, do it quickly, whatever? If your boss called you in tomorrow, if you had a job that you needed and wanted, and you, called you in tomorrow or Wednesday or whatever and said, hey, listen, we got a few apps we'd like you to learn and get on your phone. We got a few delivery systems and things, and we have this thing called a Ditto or whatever. We're going to change up how you maybe order products for you, whatever it might be. Well, if you needed the paycheck and they said, listen, you need to learn it, it's about 8 o'clock, but about noon, we need you to be pretty much on it. Might even need you to teach it to some other people. And if not, listen, we have somebody waiting in the wings and we're going to replace you. Well, you would do it for that. So therefore, I'd like you to develop the mindset, which you've heard all weekend, to do it for yourself. And we try and teach people to be independent business owners. Does everybody get that? And again, being able to go do things on your own. And so Dream, Stream, Kate, audios, books, it's great. Remember, first contract year IBOs, you're going to need to get your books elsewhere. We have that, and we'll talk about why we went to that with the APs. We do not want first contract year IBOs really investing anything outside of maybe some travel for a few functions, but otherwise, you are fully complimentary for everything, and I love that. So please honor that. Let's honor that. That's a good thing. Trojans, good to see you, bud. I spent time with you, bro. Very proud of you. Good job on everything. So just simple, guys. Habits, skills. I've always taught 3 things. Time management, money management. You all are taught how to put a separate checking account. We've been doing that since I got in the business in 1991. Being a good steward. Eventually if you work up to a 300 PV personal use, and retail, which you certainly can supplement big time with retail, that's something you work up to, right? Not everybody has the budget to do that right away or the retail customers, but you can work up to it. But remember, when you hit that and it's solid, not only do you have your retail profit, but you have 6% going into that separate account, and it basically is going to fund your business. And think about this again. For those of you that are new here and are in your first contract year complimentary, I mean, where else have you ever heard of a business that you can be profitable literally in a day or 3 days or a week or whatever? That's pretty unbelievable when you think about it. So you got to put it, I know some of you made some investment to come out here, and I totally respect that, but I think it was worth it. And you obviously made your own decision to do that, and we're glad you're here, obviously. Okay? So those things. And by the way, I joke, wouldn't it be good if you could do like Dreamstream Kate and read 15 minutes? How was T last night with her grit talk? How cute is that? Yeah. Dreamstream Kate, audios, books. Let's say those are things that change your mindset. And I joke, what if you could just do them all in the same day, right? You follow me? In other words, everybody, it's like sit-ups and push-ups. Like at night before you go to bed, I could go do 100 sit-ups and 100 push-ups, or I could go eat a pizza, right? And sometimes I choose to eat the pizza. But you get my point. So it's just sit-ups and push-ups, it's a skill set, and it's just habits, okay? So that's good. Obviously, core. Check with your upline. Everybody, I heard this, core runs or whatever you do with your group, but eventually, here's what I would tell you. I really believe those 10 steps of core help you way beyond the business. I sound like a broken record on my communicate, because to me, if you're married in here, you're not being core for your spouse, you're core for yourself, right? And if you're single, you're core for you and your cat, right? But you get my point is that helps you way beyond the business, right? Does everybody get that? I mean, what else are you challenged to read books? One of the questions I used to ask sometimes new people years ago is I go, how many books did you read last year without pictures, right? And a lot of people have never, and it's okay, some people are readers, some not. So you get that concept. So get some sit-ups and push-ups. Let's see, first circle. Let's master that. So your first circle, look, we just, IBOAI, that was a 23rd through the 28th now, right? Where you can set your ditto up around there so you get your products earlier. Let me tell you why we did that. We did that through some input from the field, and the fact that end of month was matching up with day 1 ditto, and it just was sort of mushing everything together IT-wise. So the thought process through business operations and the IBOAI and the company moved it where you can go 23rd through the 28th. Just like anything, it's an easy shift. Let's make it work. It helps the company, and there you go. And a lot of you getting products in a couple of days. So that was one of those conglomerate. Yep, that was one of those things that happened there. We're very big, check up line, but we're very big on helping people do volume events right away. Could be a beauty break, could be a Nutrilite break, could be a Reset 30, could be sports nutrition, but we do it quickly. And we have a lot of people, just like I'm sure you do, onboarding with their $300 in sales, sometimes within a couple of days. So I think you got to strike while the iron's hot. People are excited. Do what you can. Work with an upline. Again, check upline, but that's what we do. I'm just saying what we do because we're trying to create volume every chance we get because we got to get products in people's homes. So that's key. Then last couple things on that, as far as working up to a 300 PV ditto and everything else, but why do we do it? If I can give you many things I've observed about Kenny and Ashley Toms, because they really are phenomenal leaders and are doing some amazing things with the growth they're having. They're very good at teaching why we do what we do. And to me, Ditto Delivery, which actually started my first, I was on business operations back, I think, 2009, and that's when that whole thing came about. It wasn't like I thought of it, it was just something that came about. It's a patented process, it's pretty amazing, it's very flexible, right? You can do a lot with it, but I look at it this way, I look at it as sort of fiscal responsibility. And we actually teach you, I think you've seen the edibles apps and everything else. I think everybody in the business, a lot of people watching, all worldwide's watching today, is 100 points of edibles is not hard to do. And I'm not trying to be funny. When I talk about food, I got to make sure you think I'm not joking. But I probably on most days eat 14 or 15 edibles, 3 or 4 bottles of water, a couple excess, couple of bars, whatever it might be. And I think every one of you, because remember that $300, let's say 100 points or whatever, you're doing it in somebody else's store. You might as well redirect it and do it in your own store, and then you can retail it and do it. So I'm glad I remembered to say that, but I really think we could even do a better job. In other words, you're pre-ordering at the beginning of the month your favorite excess or your favorite bars or whatever it might be, your protein shakes and whatever, and I think we can continue to teach that better and better, but that's how simple the business really is. It's changing your point of purchase however you look at it, and then it opens up to retail because you can talk about it. So then, let's see, as we're moving forward, why we do that. Like anybody, I know I do, but anybody got stuff in their house where when you look at it, you don't know where you bought it, why you bought it, or what it does? How many times you run into a store, I'm just gonna go pick up a few things, and you walk out with all kinds of things you didn't mean to walk home with? We all do that. So I think Ditto is a way of fiscal responsibility and teaching you to direct your money, and I'm sure you're being taught that by your upline. Then simple stuff, right? Start with a list of people. It's amazing to me how many people don't get started and really go through your phone. Name, occupation, marital status, phone number. I think there's a document on the Worldwide Group app. I've taught it from day one. That's how I built our whole business. The whole foundation I built was on other people. And I got really good at getting into people's sphere of influence. So I'll just use Joe and Heidi Trudgeon, who are hosting us. They're doing an amazing job. If I had a neat couple like that, I would sit with them and I would help them write names down and find out who they know. I would say things like, look, I can usually triple someone's referral list by going through categories I found to be high percentage in the business. Single, married, kids, whatever. And I wanted to know who they knew. I've told the story before, but obviously 33 years in the business, there's nobody in all of our platinum and above legs, and again, I know we're talking to a lot of you that are new, but there's nobody who's originally personally sponsored by me, even before I met T in 1996, that's even active in the business. That's very common. So the chances of your frontline person being your leader long term is usually not the case. So you gotta learn to go meet people. That's why people have little nubs. They gotta learn how to go build some groups. So take that for what it's worth. Getting an approach, look, form, all that, whatever the approach that you're using, let's just be honest and truthful and forthright. Let's not be, we're not using the word candidate anymore. We haven't used that for a couple of years. Go read the updated QAS. Why? Because it's not a job. We don't want people to think it's a job opportunity. That's not right. And we want to be truthful. If people ask you what the business is, you tell them. Why would you dance around it? You're in a direct selling model. You're in the greatest direct selling model in the history of mankind, right? So follow your upline, but let's be a cut above. We talk about that all the time. Being calendar driven, we covered that. Here's another thing that I think you all want to do, hopefully come out of the weekend, is get to a point where you start really, creating your own volume, whether you're doing some volume events or you're showing the plan yourself, but go out and become an independent business owner. It's great to have an upline that's willing to help you, but let's also go be independent. So one of the things I've always tried to do is get people, even the newest people, out showing their own plan or meet and greets or whatever you're doing as quickly as possible. And if your goal is to develop leaders, then you gotta it's like raising kids. We kept, and I'll just say where we were at, this is my philosophy, we kept the bar low on our children, Isaiah, Gabriel, and Elisha, who are all thriving tremendously today. Remarkable. But we kept the bar low, because if you keep the bar too high, it's just like the business. If you keep the bar too high, you're not gonna have too many people who can reach the bar. And remember, a large percentage of the people that get in the business, remember we use the word typical, or that's what the guidance we get is typical. The typical person that gets in the business doesn't do that much, and that's not negative. The income disclosures, by the way, the new 2000, here you go, here's a factoid. 2023 income disclosures are done. They're done for the US and Canada. They should be on the Amway site by May 1st. We'll get a cater something out on that. They're great, but we need to show the income disclosure. Last year, the one said the average IBO made $852 a year. I'm in the room sitting there, and when I heard that bill and I heard that, we're going, that's awesome. Because that did include all the people that didn't do anything. Okay? So let's use the income disclosures, because why do we do those? Or someone said, why do we put them on the front of the audios? Because we're trying to be upfront with people, everybody. We're gonna be a cut above, and you gotta understand our industry, okay? And we get a chance to study the industry, and we are trying to protect the reputation of the business, and I hope you all respect that, and I hope you all understand it, and it's great for your kids and your grandkids, so please understand, all right? And by the way, as I think of all the little tweaks, and I'm gonna get into those a little bit that we've made, everybody, they're great for the future of the business, and it's all based on leadership. And if you make it a molehill and understand it's a little thing to go with, then everybody responds and does a phenomenal job. So first circle, ditto, bronze programs. Got some stats for you. Bronze foundation, average bronze foundation was somewhere around like $210 or something last year, which is really good. That extra 30%, right? When you're at 9% with 3% legs and you get an extra 30%, I imagine that's not happening when you go off to work tomorrow in your plan A. Watch this. Then bronze builder was 40%. Average there is about $700 or $800, something like that. Some are doing even better than that. You know, when you're right, 2,500, 18%, and you got 3 legs at 6%. Everybody, here's what a lot of people don't realize. When we started that a year ago, September, and we have some exciting things about that program that you will be hearing about pretty soon. We started that, a year ago, September, Core Plus and all that. You do realize that they actually paid that to all of you that were already there. Should I repeat that? That was significant. It was a large amount of money for the company, and they paid it for you when you already had that. So Bronze Foundation, Bronze Builder, Eagle, Double Eagle, and Worldwide, and Ron and the man, we've always taught structure, right? Everybody get that? More width, more profit, everybody gets all that, so that's good. And so today, by the way, when we show the plan, right, we're going up to Founders Platinum. Why are we doing that for prospects and first contract year IBOs? Because it's relatable and it's appropriate, right? And it's like the whole concept where you don't feed a baby steak. I'm not calling you babies, don't misunderstand me. But if you feed a baby steak, baby choke. Right? If you notice, even this weekend, everybody did a great job. We're not here necessarily this weekend talking about the higher levels all the time because Ron's always taught the 2 visions, but we're also trying to be sensitive to people that are new to the business. Now, when you're in the business, you know, and you're already in, go read the book. You can go read that. I'm not saying you can't strive for that, but let's eat the elephant one bite at a time. I think it's a cool thing. So why do we do some of the things we did? Let's see. This is good stuff. Study the industry. The new quality assurance standards, which is out in any industry, is out. You should read it. It's wonderful. I think it's really great. There's content standards and program standards. Content standards are for content, for what we show the plan with and how we run the business. Program standards are more for the APs and Worldwide and the other approved providers along North America. And the fun part for us, I hope this is interesting to you, because if nothing else, it's interesting to me, okay? Because I really think it's cool how it all came about. So I hope it's not boring you. But no, it's good. I'm glad. Because we're trying to develop mature, and I think what Greg was talking about, just clear thinking leaders of why we do what we do. So that's good. Studying the industry. We're using words like ongoing, sustainable, supplemental income. You know, for instance, here you go. Since we got all Worldwide, we don't use residual income. We haven't used that for 3 or 4 or 5 years. So if you're using it, just tweak it, pluck it out of your vernacular, right? It has more to do with insurance industries and different things. It doesn't relate to direct selling. Ongoing, sustainable, supplemental income. Fair enough? There you go. So that's easy enough. VCS, why did we do that? Because we knew there was tons of retail being done around North America. We just didn't have a way to document it, right? So we went to VCS. You realize today that almost 87% of North America, US and Canada, is doing 60% plus VCS every single month. So obviously that wasn't a big deal. And we just took Rule 4.12 and automated it. It's great. Lifestyle and income claims, again, being really sensitive to that, just because, again, the typical person, you know, isn't going to, people say, well, you can go, not do much and sit on the back of a yacht. That's not true, right? The business takes effort. We've never hidden that in Worldwide, and that's good. And it doesn't take anything away from the potential that I think all of you have in the future. You just got to realize that success in our business is no different than success in any business, right? Grit and all that. Onboarding, that worked out really well. By the way, 80+% of IBOs are onboarding in the first 60 days, so you're doing a great job there. That's not hard to do. Lots of sponsoring. We're not solely a mentorship program. I think we still have trying to clean some things up here. I think we have people running around trying to sell this as a mentorship program. Please don't do that. That's not what this is. You know, or some people say, well, the products aren't that important. That's a very silly thing to say. You actually get paid on PV and BV, and that's how it works. There's a bonus schedule. Stair step, 3 to 25%, right? Everybody get that? So doesn't mean there's not mentorship part of it. We just don't promote it as a solely mentorship program. The word solely. Let's see. A few others. Complimentary, why did we do that? I remember when it first came out, we're thinking about it. We're going, hey, would that work? Where would that be? And by the way, it's not a promotion. We're going to be doing it ongoing. We've done it in other markets. The cost or no cost of the business has never made a difference of whether people built it or not. And now with the economy, it just removes a hurdle. So Amway ate that cost for IBOAI. They ate that cost for the getting in, the registration. And then the APs just decided to go along. So all of you know, and I know you appreciate it, I get that. And you're going a full year of complimentary BSM. So please please appreciate it. A few more things. You're all familiar with cardinal rules. I don't need to go through all those. Why do we have some cardinal rules? Check up line, don't do anything, don't pass negative down line and all that. Yeah, I love how T says a lot of great things. But she always said, well, honey, she goes, I didn't want to go out and do all this work and then do something and do something dumb that would hurt my business. Does everybody get that? So you plug into an active growing up line, right? And you bottom line is and you all have that, platinum and above. Let's see. We talk about being a cut above. That's probably the biggest thing. By the way, prospecting, another thing that just popped in my head. A few more thoughts here. Just appreciate this organization. I hope you can hear my heart. But I know where we're at. I know where we're headed. And anyway, so you get my gist on some of that. But upline relationship, cut above. Again, when we're prospecting everybody, do me a favor. Please do not be overly aggressive with people. Please do not run into store aisles and jump on people. Be careful getting close to people's children. We've had people, gosh, everybody, we see everything. Let's be a cut above. Let's be professional. Don't follow people into the parking lot. No, I'm serious. When we hear that stuff, we go, who in the world does that? We know you're not getting taught that, so just let's be a cut above. How about normal? Normal good? Let's be normal, okay? All right, last couple things. Netting people in. T and I talk about this all the time. I think I'll just tell you what my experience of 33 years, okay, is not everybody's ready to move forward all the time. So you got to create a culture and environment where people feel love and encouragement. It's just like raising children. It's no different. Not everybody is going to have a bar up here. In fact, the number's never been real high. That's okay. But you got to make sure, if you're seeing a lot of fallout where people getting in, getting out, getting in, getting out, just make sure you're taking the time to. I just coached a couple of our big leaders that I told them that would be sort of that last little piece, right? Of just keeping people around, learning how to compliment the simplest things, and being a big encourager, okay? Let's not be making fun of jobs, please. Those days are over. Let's be complimentary for what people do for a living, okay? And we don't want people running around doing that. That's no good. And then we don't put other things down to make ourselves look better. We don't go and put down another energy drink just because we have excess, everybody. That's what 8-year-old immature people do. So let's be adults, okay? Comparison mode, molehills, mountains. You guys have heard all that kind of stuff before. I always get off stage thinking of something I should have said. We talk about the power of the spoken word. You got all those basic things. But let me just close with a couple thoughts. I remember years ago just sitting around and we were talking, might have been with Matt and a few people, and I'm thinking, here's another good way to look at success, is how many individuals, people, and families are positively impacted by what you do on a day-to-day basis. And if you wonder why this incredible group of leaders over here, continues to do what they do, it's because they believe in you, and they believe we're making an impact. None of us are marriage counselors. We're not professional anything. Our goal, as I said yesterday, is to teach you to build a long-term, sustainable, profitable Amway business. And just take it for what it's worth, okay? Hope that makes sense to you. But love you all very much. Worldwide's powerful. Have a great weekend. See you later.